Victor and Daniel's father, Chief Jacob, had just died. He was a very rich man, and now his two sons stood in his big house waiting to hear who would get all his money. Victor was the older brother. He had spent his whole life working for their father, running the family business. He had given up his dreams to do what their father wanted. Daniel, the younger brother, was different. He had left home years ago to become an artist. He did not care about money or business, but now he had come back to see if he would get anything from his father's will. The lawyer, an old man with round glasses, opened a letter from their father. "Your father left a message," he said. Then he began to read. "To my sons, Victor, you always listened to me. Daniel, you always disobeyed me. One of you will get everything I own. But first, you must prove you deserve it." The lawyer looked up. "There is a key hidden in the family vault. This key will open a box with your father's final decision. Whoever brings it back first will get the inheritance." Victor and Daniel stared at each other. Then, at the same time, they both ran. Victor ran fast, his shoes tapping loudly on the wooden floor. Daniel was right behind him, his heart pounding. They both wanted the key. They both wanted to win. When they reached the vault, Victor pushed the heavy door open. Inside, the room was dark and cold. Shelves lined the walls, full of old books and papers. In the middle of the floor, something shiny caught their eyes. The key. Victor rushed forward, but Daniel grabbed his arm. "Let me go!" Victor shouted. "No," Daniel said. "You already had everything our father wanted. You don't deserve more." Victor shoved Daniel back. "I worked for this. I stayed. You ran away." Daniel's face turned red. "Because I didn't want to be like him." They fought, punching and pushing. Their father had always made them compete. He had never taught them how to be brothers. Then something terrible happened. Daniel saw an old gun on the desk, their father's gun. Without thinking, he grabbed it. "Stay back!" he shouted. Victor froze. "Are you crazy? Put that down!" But Daniel's hands were shaking. His finger slipped. The room went silent. Victor looked down. Blood spread across his shirt. His legs gave out, and he fell to the floor. Daniel's eyes widened. No, I didn't mean to." He dropped the gun and rushed to his brother. Victor gasped for air. He looked up at Daniel, pain in his eyes. "You shot me," he whispered. Daniel pressed his hands against the wound, trying to stop the bleeding. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean it." His whole body was shaking. Footsteps echoed down the hall. The lawyer was coming. The inheritance was so close. But Daniel didn't care anymore. Tears ran down his face. He had spent his life trying to be different from his father. But now he had hurt his own brother, just like their father had hurt them. And that was the only thing their father had truly left them. Daniel knelt beside Victor, pressing his hands against the wound, but the blood wouldn't stop. The lawyer's footsteps grew louder. Daniel turned his head as the old man stepped into the room. His eyes widened at the sight before him. The blood, the gun, the two brothers on the floor. "What happened?" the lawyer gasped. Daniel's throat was dry. It was an accident. He needs a doctor." The lawyer rushed out of the room, calling for help. The sound of sirens echoed in the distance. Help was coming. Paramedics burst into the room, lifting Victor onto a stretcher. As they carried Victor away, Daniel felt something cold on his wrist. Handcuffs. The police officer behind him spoke in a low, firm voice. "You're coming with us." Daniel didn't resist. He barely even moved. As they led him away, he glanced back at the vault. the key still lay on the ground, untouched. His father's inheritance no longer mattered, because in the end all his father had left them was pain.